Well, hello again and welcome to the VK60S Fun with Amateur Radio channel. Right, now I haven't been sitting on my hands with regard the GS35B amplifier project. I have been getting on with it. I've done a bit more metal work over the weekend. Now as you can see here, I've now got a vertical screen between the power supply section here and the RF deck, which is over here on the left hand side. Now this is only a test fit, so none of the final wiring is in place. It's still got some of that sort of proof of concept wiring appearing as a bit of a bird's nest on top of the transformer. I don't know if you can see it, but the gap between this bracket here and the transformer frame is exactly the same all the way along. Can you see that? I've got a torch on. Bloody torch is playing up now. Guarantee it, can't you? Really. There we go. So I don't know if you can see that gap between this bracket here and the transformer frame. It's about a 1mm gap all the way along. So that's all. That fits very nicely. You can see there's a bolt there sticking through the bottom. That's one of the transformer securing bolts. There's 4 of those. They're all sticking through the bottom at the moment, and they're all in the right place. The screen's held in place by a couple of I think they're 20mm by 20mm right-angled aluminium brackets. They've just been cut to size. There you go, these things here. Just been cut to size, cleaned up with a bit of emery paper, drilled some holes in, put some bolts in. Now, looking at it from there, yeah, as I say, that's a test fit. Fits perfectly. There's holes in the bottom of this bracket here, going along. And the holes are actually drilled through the bottom as well, so they all line up nicely. I haven't put the bolts in, but they line up nicely as well. So all that so far is so good. Now in here there's going to be the heater transformer, the 12-volt transformer for the relays, the little 6-volt transformer that runs a timer relay. Once that's all bolted onto there, then this board here will be moved back to within about 20mm. I moved over to there so that it's only propped up at the moment, so that there's room for the panel meters, because the panel meters sort of protrude back from the front panel, so this board here has to go as far that way as possible, if you see what I mean. Still got a bit of a cold, as you can probably tell. The gap between here and here has been measured to allow for the 3 meters to go in. It's just fortunate that you know, the transformer coupled with the width of the bracket is about the right gap between here and here for the 3 panel meters for the plate current, grid current, plate voltage to all fit in there on the front panel and be recessed to the right depth. Same with the switches at the bottom. So that's all good, and it's worked out very well, because I wanted this bracket here on this side of the screen, not on that side, because of I didn't really want anything sticking out at the bottom on the other side, in case I have to mount the capacitors actually to the bottom of the case, and it'd be a bit lopsided, if you see what I mean. If one's sort of if it's a mil or a mil and a half higher on one side, it's just less to think about if I can keep the RF deck nice and clean like that. So okay, now those transformers, when they're mounted in here, the HT is going to have to go along here, and the probably down the bottom there the heaters will go along from the heater transformer. The 12 volts will go along from the relay power supply, 12-volt supply, and be a smoothing capacitor and a rectifier bridge. It's bolted on here. It'll be all nice and simple as possible. The fewer components the better. Seriously a minimalist design. So that 12 volts will go along the bottom, go through a grommet onto the switching relays. The filament AC, the heater AC, same thing, that'll run along the bottom there, out through a grommet and over to the valve. The HT will run along the top. Probably just below the HT will be some mains wiring, which will go over to the transformer, onto here, through some little you know, those little cable securing things, not the sticky back ones, the ones you screw in to here and run down to the switches. So the EHT cable, I've got the special, the proper 25,000 volt rated 10 amp cable that will go from the rectifier board there, go along the top of the screen in those clips. Then it will go out through a gland in the it'll go out through a gland probably around here somewhere, down there. That's quite a distance between there and there, more than enough. That wiring won't be there, as I say, that's only sort of lash up stuff. And then on the other side of the screen, on the RF side of the screen, is this staying in focus? I've had a lot of trouble with the autofocus on this camera lately. It's been playing up something wrong. Okay. So on this, let's hope it stays in focus. On this screen here, I'll have the plate choke mounted like that. There'll be a decoupling capacitor like that, just to decouple that. That's a 3300 puff 10,000 volt working capacitor, just to decouple any RF from the HT line. I'm not sure yet whether I'll bolt that straight onto that frame or whether I'll bolt that onto one of these insulators first. I'll have to check the rating on these to see if these are rated at 5,000 volts. I'll probably screw that to that and then mount that on there. So that will mount on there, and then that will go sort of like that, something like that. But I think you can see what I've got in mind. So the valve's going there, the tuning capacitor's here, so the plate choke there, the decoupling for the plate choke, and just a little, probably one of those little nylon glands, just big enough for the 25,000 volt rated cable to come through and go onto the choke. Won't need a ceramic feed through with that 25,000 volt rated cable. Okay, so that's how the amplifier's coming along. As you can see, it's got plenty of bolts in it here to keep it all nice and rigid. So that will support those transformers, no problem at all. And there we go, there's a load capacitor. That will go in there. I think they probably are going to have to be raised, but I won't put another bracket on that side, it just doesn't need it. And the there we go. So the tune capacitor, same physical size as this one. This one's a 1000 picofarad. This will be the plate load, and the plate tune will be physically the same size, sit on top of it, but because it's half the value, 500 picofarad, the spacing will be twice as large. So there you go. You can see the RF deck is nice and separate from the power supply, and that's what I've been doing with it. So hope you found that interesting. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.